sound. There we go.
Hi, everybody. It is very exciting to see all 122 of you, and also you, Nick. Hi, Nick.
Thanks. Hi.
Hi. So this is all a grand experiment. I think the general theme of the moment that we're all living through is none of us know what is happening. We're all having to learn a bunch of things and change everything about how we live incredibly quickly. And in the theme of that experimentation, I want to give a couple of disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, Nick and I have never used this video broadcasting tool before.
Yep.
So please be patient if we are randomly clicking buttons trying to figure out what to do. We're learning. The other, of course, really big and important disclaimer is that neither Nick nor I are medical experts or public health experts. Please don't ask us public health questions we don't know. We are here to talk about businesses and what we're facing and ideas for that. Okay, so yes, just to give some context to this conversation, I write about personal finance and think a lot about money and how we interact with money, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I have a business, and like all of you, I'm really anxious at the moment. And that kind of got me to reach out to my very good friend, Nick Haralambous, sitting...
Nice.
Yeah, Haralambous, Nick Harry, who is also an entrepreneur and talks and speaks a lot about business and specifically small business in South Africa. So I had a lot of questions about what are things that I can be doing to prepare my business. And I thought that I should ask Nick those things and that some of you might find that useful as well. So that's why we're here. We're going to chat for about an hour-ish. We might go on a little bit if there's good conversation. We want to take as many of your questions as possible. And a really important thing is this is obviously free, but we are trying to raise money to donate to Gift of the Givers, who are funding medical workers on the front lines in South Africa. So you should see a little donation button at the bottom of the screen. If you can, I understand times are rough right now. Please tap that button. And yeah, Nick just brought it up, I think. Amazing.
Yep.
What a good tool.
This platform is pretty impressive.
Very impressive. If you've got some randillas to spread around, that's a really worthy cause. Okay, so to kick us off, Nicholas, what exactly are entrepreneurs facing right now?
Sam, I think the theme for you and I today is prepare, but don't be paranoid. And I think the truth is none of us know. There is opportunity for a lot of people. There is fear for a lot of people. And I mean, we just have to learn how to be reactionary at this point in time and prepare for what's coming. The reason that I was so keen to jump onto this call with you when you proposed it is last week I was at the biggest small business conference in South Africa hosted by Yoko, and I was on stage and I did a keynote talk and a panel discussion. And afterwards, I spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs who generally didn't acknowledge that this was a thing. And that freaked me out. I firmly believe that the economic fallout over the next 5 years from this globally, never mind just locally, is going to be significantly more than we're preparing for. I also believe that this is why the South African government is rushing to reach the levels that they're reaching in terms of lockdown, in terms of laws. I think obviously the human concern is massive, but for a government looking at the long-term knock-on effects of an economy that is already in the shitter is quite a big concern. So I think that if you are on this call with us and you are a small business and you aren't taking this seriously, I think you need to start today. You need to start considering what your options are and looking at this as a real long-term global problem and long-term global shift. Now, there are a lot of people that I know who are listening in today that see opportunity, and that's awesome. My concern is for those who don't. My concern is for the restaurants, the barbershops, the retailers who have physical stores, who have leases. People have already shut down their spending habits, and that is going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, so I already know of 3 businesses that have decided to close just over the last week.
I mean, it's intense out there. What I'm personally doing is reaching out to anyone that I had budgeted for already, like my barbers, and I'm paying them for the month. that I would have anyways. Some of them are refusing, but I mean, Rich is commenting in the bottom right that he's not sure anyone's not taking this seriously, but I'm genuinely serious when I say this. I'm still being invited to go out to parties. I'm still seeing videos of people gathering in big events. There is what's big in your world is not big in the world. And there are a lot of people, a lot of business owners who are still wondering why there is no turnover, why there is no footprints, like why is there nothing happening? And they haven't looked up at the macro. And it's important that we consider the macro here.
It's been a bit surreal for me because I'm based in the UK now, and we're sort of, I think, 2 weeks ahead of where South Africa is in terms of the case curve. Weirdly, not ahead in terms of government response. Thanks, Boris.
For one, our government is shooting the lights out.
Actually, but it has been quite surreal to me because the UK is on lockdown. Just not officially, but just everything has stopped. And it's very odd calling friends back home, and they're like, yeah, going out for dinner later. I'm like, oh, dinner. I remember dinner. I'm on day 16 of quarantine.
It's mental. So Sam, I think what I want to do, what triggered this thought for you was I wrote a column in the Daily Maverick about things that I think small businesses can do immediately. So let me shoot off with those. And then if you've got any questions, we can field them. Otherwise, let's take questions from the nearly 100 people who are streaming live right now.
Wonderful.
So some of the things I'm going to say are really hard to do, but are imperative. The overarching theme of my thinking here is, as a business, you need to weigh up whether you want to protect all the humans in your company or save your company. And I do think that this is the choice that business owners are faced with. I'm not saying that staff are your number one problem, but the first thing you need to do as a small business is assess your finances. I'm stunned just broadly how few business owners are very familiar with how much money is coming in and how much money is going out every month. The simple phrase for this that people don't understand is cash flow. Cash flow is how much money do you owe in the next 30 days versus how much money is coming in the next 30 days. If the one doesn't match the other, you're in trouble. If you owe more money in the next 30 days than you're getting in, you need to fix that in the short term immediately. And that's going to become more problematic for small businesses, as big businesses are not going to change their payment terms. Some of them might consider it, but if you're on 90-day payment terms and you've got bills due in 20 days, you're in trouble. So it's very important to know how much money you have in the bank, how much money is going out, and how much money is coming in. That's also commonly referred to as your runway, how many months until you run out of money. So you need to know these things. If I'm going to get on a call with you and I'm going to help mentor you and I ask you what your financial position is and you don't know, you're already dead. It's very brutal, but very true.
Nick, I'm sure that people have different ways of doing this, but do you have a good spreadsheet or template or a tool that you could share after this call with the community for small businesses who maybe don't know off the top of their head what that number is?
So I generally use Xero, Xero, for my accounting. I plug it into my bank account. My accountants are connected to that. And I'm a small business. I'm a sole proprietor. I mean, I have a PTY Limited, but I'm an individual and I still use Xero because it's like a single view of everything. But honestly, the easiest way to do this is your bank will email you a statement every month. On that statement, it will say money received and money spent. If last month money spent is bigger than money received, your cash flow is screwed. It couldn't be simpler than that. So that's the first thing.
And can we talk about, so I think immediately slashing cash flow is probably the big priority for all businesses, right? There's some obvious ones, but what are some sort of maybe less obvious, easy wins right now that people can think about?
So I think that anything that is luxury needs to go. If your company, my company, we used to get a weekly fruit box. We've canceled that. It's ridiculous, but we've canceled it. And I completely understand that puts pressure under the business that used to supply us with that box. But these are the tough decisions we're facing now. It's on them to help me pay them without receiving the fruit, but I'm wasting fruit if I'm not at work. Go remote if you can. Get rid of any overheads that include offices, rentals, any services that your credit card is just billing that you aren't sure of where. And these rack up. I mean, just this Crowdcast is $49 a month. If you've got 5 or 6 of those, you're looking at a couple of $1,000 a month. Over a period of 3 months, that adds up.
Just the thing about rent, I've been hearing from a couple of people, obviously cancelling a rental agreement is difficult in the middle of it, but I've been hearing from a few people who've approached their landlords and asked for a reduction in rent given the circumstances, and bearing in mind that everyone is trying to kind of hold on to whatever they can right now. I've heard from a couple of people that their landlords have been amenable to that conversation. So that's something you could look at.
Look, I think now's the time to not be shy. It's rather have someone tell you no than never ask. So if you own a retail store and you are in one of the big retail outlets, big retail centers, you're in trouble because those landlords are really, really intense and really harsh. I speak from experience. I actually threatened to sue a couple of them before they let me out of my lease. So if you have a big box retailer that you're in, you need to talk to them about either staying your rents, taking a moratorium on it some way. But it's really tough with rental. I mean, ideally, what you want to start doing is giving your landlords 2 months notice and start getting rid of your rentals if you can. Go remote as much as possible. I know it sounds like we're being dramatic, but this is a 12-month knock-on here. It's not going to be over in 3 months. The economic downturn at the end of this is going to extend to 18 months. So you need to start thinking beyond just the next 2 months.
There's a great comment from Robin that says, we've cut all luxury or extraneous purchases, subscription services, etc. Also done pay cuts for my 2 permanent staff members. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that because I think that that's really important. Like, it's a very difficult conversation to talk about pay cuts with your staff, but I think you rather want to be having a conversation about cutting pay now and being able to retain people than having to close your doors in a few months' time.
Yeah, the hard decisions are the right ones almost every time. And if you're going to try and save every staff member and keep their way of living as it is now forever, you're going to lose your business, like hands down. Rather give them options. They can work less hours, work fewer days. They can take a pay cut and hope that we get it back later. You can consider some kind of staff equity program and offer them the cash reduction in equity in your business if they stick around. There are a lot of ways to try and get your team on board. And that kind of triggers me into the next biggest thing that I think all business owners need to be doing is communication with your team and with your customers. They all know it's panic stations. If you're the entrepreneur CEO, they can see it on your face. The panic is visceral. I know from experience that when I hid it from my team, months later, they went, yeah, we knew, dude. We knew you were struggling and you didn't tell us. So either bring your team in and communicate with them or don't. It's super important that you over communicate with your customers too. If you're a barbershop, are your barbers wearing masks? Are they wearing gloves? Are you open? Are you not? How can I help you? Just over communicate. In times like these, it's okay to ask for help and it's okay to ask for your team to back you and your loyal fans to be loyal and like defend you. Just over communicate. That's the theme for that one.
I just want to highlight 2 quick other things. So our friend Rich Mulholland saying we're also repurposing staff.
Great comment. Yeah.
Wonderful idea. Okay, sorry. Yes, I derailed myself with that thought. What?
That's okay. So there's a couple of comments around, can you approach the bigger businesses and ask for help? So I know that Standard Bank has recently said that they will put a 3-month pause on payments, which is incredible. I'm hoping that leads the way and gives other banks kind of an in on what we're requiring. It would be amazing if all the other private businesses that control things like that do something similar if possible. We as a country will never be able to do this, but I think it's Denmark who is pausing their economy for 3 months or proposing that that's what they do. They're freezing it. That's never going to happen here. So you need to kind of find ways to mitigate those costs or delay them. One of the ways I was thinking about for retail was if you're going to say to your landlord, give me a 50% cut over 3 months and I'll pay it back over the rest of the term of my lease. So if that's another 36 months, you can amortize that 3-month cuts over 36 months and increase your next 36 months by 5% instead of paying off 3 full months now. There's lots of ways to be creative and rather go to people again and communicate rather than come back a week before you're about to go under and say, guys, I'm screwed. You need to help me, because they're also in trouble. Like, it's this knock-on is 2 ways.
All of that starts with having the data to begin with. Unless you know where your money is going, you can't start with those conversations.
Absolutely. It goes back to just know your business. And like, this is good advice for all the time, not just now. Just know your business intimately.
Can we just quickly talk about some other kind of help that might or might not be available? So I had a couple of questions from people in my community a while ago about business interruption insurance.
Yeah.
The sad news is what I'm hearing is that most business interruption policies are not going to cover closures here. They cover when there's material damage to big kind of things, but they're not going to cover this probably. If you have specific policies, maybe go check the fine print, but also bear in mind that the entire world is going to be trying to make insurance claims right now. It's not really an
100%.
option. The UIF as well, if you do have to retrench staff, I know, or if you're a freelancer, I know, or someone with irregular income, I know that they have a huge backlog at the moment. So they're delayed in processing those things, and that money is,
then there is the SME Department of Small Business Development, which is establishing a debt relief fund. That goes live in 12 hours from now. So that's possibly the most impressive thing I've seen from the government so far. If you are a small business doing less than 20 million a year in turnover, and you believe that the coronavirus is going to directly affect your income and increase your ability, your chances of shutting down, you can apply, and they will cover your cash flow. So again, going back to know your cash flow, then you'll be able to apply and justify why you're a barbershop, no one's coming into your store, and you need to continue to pay your staff. And here's the 60 grand a month that I need to do so. You can apply, but really, and I genuinely mean this, you need to go and find, I'll post the link now, you need to register the second that this opens. The link is there, I've just posted it. There will be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of businesses applying for this in the next 6 to 12 months. If you can get in early, you're likely to get your money at a fairly quicker rate. But Sam and I discussed this prior to this, there is very little that the government is going to do to help your business. If you are imminently going to shut down in 3 months, there is no funding coming your way. On top of that, banks are not going to give you a loan if there is no way that they can see that this economy is going to turn around. So you have to be responsible for getting on top of your own business. There are no handouts at this point. The whole world is in this hole. So you need to get to grips with your own stuff.
Nick, can we talk about adaptation, right? And I know that this was one of the points that you made in your Daily Maverick article, which is about learning, trying to go online. One of the really interesting things I've been seeing here, and I see someone, Mo, actually brought this up in the comments as well, is a lot of restaurants and even pubs, like little English pubs, suddenly offering food deliveries and trying to get contracts with emergency workers. So there are some people who are still working. So what are our options in terms of like shifting businesses and looking to change what we do to, because some businesses are doing really well right now financially, like online grocery delivery companies. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's important to remember that everything is contextual. So there is no one brush here. If you're a restaurant business, I promise you now, the restaurant business is not going digital forever. It's just a short stay. So you don't want to shift your whole business model away from the thing that is going to be relied on in another 12 months. You want to protect it so that you can go back to it. So I think the diversification is a really impressive way to solve this. I was at a new restaurant yesterday doing my bit, getting takeaways from them so that they could survive. They've just opened 2 or 3 weeks ago, called Grumpy and Runt. I'm not sure if she's on the call. She said she might join. And they immediately are getting onto Uber Eats because the restaurant is going to be empty. So any business needs to think that way. If you're a freelancer and you've got skills that can be global, if you've been waiting for the right moment to go global, today is the right moment. Now you need to get onto any platform you can and use your skills in the most diverse way possible to bring in a diversified set of income. And Sam, obviously your forte with this is the personal side of income. And you and I both know that safe personal income is diversified. It's the same for business. If you have a single revenue model and it depends on live events, you're in trouble. Like the next 6 months are going to be tough. You need to figure out a way to shift that. Talk to your customers and see if you can help them with a different kind of service. And again, communicate. Don't just sit in a bubble and hope. I call it my empty room theory. You can't sit in an empty room, stare out the window and hope to come up with an idea. You have to go out and talk to people. You have to engage with your customers, your partners, your suppliers, and see if there's a way for you to work with one another. That's kind of how I'm looking at this diversification thing. And having done that with a few of the people that I'm close to, I've gotten a lot of work because they're all looking for ways to like rejig the way that they make money. So again, don't be shy. South Africans as business owners and people, we're quite humble and we're quite shy. Time for that is over. It's now time to be upfront about what you need. And if people can't help you, move on to the next thing. And just one note on that, one of the things I said in my article was to sell harder and sell more. The best advice I give to startups around selling is a maybe is a no. If someone says to you, sure, maybe I'll commit, give me a few weeks, they're a no. Move on and park them and come back to them in 12 months. But you need to find the yeses as quickly as possible. Don't hinge your business on maybes, because no one is committing to maybes in the next 6 months. Everyone is holding their money.
I think that I just want to kind of pull out that thing that you're talking about around diversification, because I think for me, this is like a huge theme of what's happening. There's so much uncertainty in the world right now, more than normal. And there's no amount of research or thinking or obsessively rechecking Twitter that will give you the answers about what the future is going to look like what the next 6 months are going to look like, because nobody knows. All you can do, the only way to really manage risk in anything is to have lots of different fallback options. And now is the time in your business and your personal life, your personal financial life, to be doing that. I want to pull out Jane. Was saying, as a business coach, I've used Zoom successfully for the past few years to consult. However, everyone is holding on to pennies, so cancellations are happening daily. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like there's so much in flux, but I think that the idea of, if you have in-person skills, try them in different places. Just try to have as many different options as you can.
Yeah. So I'm going to try something new. Rich has asked us a question about size. I'm going to see if he's interested in coming on the screen to ask us that question.
Do that. That's amazing.
Let's see. I've tried. Mr. Mulholland, are you there? Invite user on the screen. Yes, I want to invite Rich onto the screen. Doesn't seem like he's there. Okay, so Rich's question is, should we pay SARS now or try and defer them? My honest answer is try and defer them. There is no reason not to apply for a deferment. Try every single possible answer you can. This would be a way that the government is helping. So hit them up, drop them an email, contact them, phone them, do whatever you can. There's Rich. Rich,
hello.
I've just answered your question. So do you have another question for us, since I've got you up on the screen?
I've got an observation, and it was just something about relative to a question that came in just now, is that we need to forget what it is that our businesses did, and we need to understand the skills we have and the problems that now exist that we can solve. So what we're finding is we're just going through it. We've like on one column, we've written everything that we are able to do. Literally everything we're able to do. What skills do we have? Every staff member writes down the 10 skills they have, and then every problem we think our customers are facing. And anytime where those two line and join, we create something and we sell it. So like one of the small things we're doing now is we're training public speakers how to present online, because we're also training regular speakers how to present online. That's a different skill set. So like there's so much we can do just by matching the skills. And I just thought that maybe there could be something worth sharing there. Just draw that list of all the skills you have, and you've got to either fix a problem or fill a gap.
Brad, thanks, Rich. I'm going to jump you off there. So I think such a great observation. I think the incredibly smart thing that Rich has done in his own business, and I've obviously spoken to him one-on-one about this, is reframing your skill set. So in Rich's book, Legicide, just because you've always done them one way doesn't mean you always have to. And if you don't, you're probably going to die. So in the current world we live in, and even if you're a barbershop and even if you're a restaurant, list what you do. It's obvious that if you're a restaurant, you make food, but what food? Is it lunch food? Can it be delivered? Is it catering? Do you want to cater small parties, big parties? There's a whole list of things in the world that you can just reframe the way that you do things to apply to a new world. And I think Rich's idea of physically sit with your team and again, communicate, right? Set up a Zoom call with everyone and get them to list everything that they do in a day and ask them if they think they can make money out of that thing with your business, and then facilitate them doing that. A big part of this is trust. So I think in the new world we live in, we have to trust that the person wearing a mask on the street thinks that they're sick. So they're trying to protect you from being sick. They're not an asshole who's wearing a mask. They're trying to protect you. Same way with your team and your partners and your suppliers. Trust that they're also in this with you. Trust that they're trying to help you make money and get through this, because if you go under, they go under. So trust your team that they're going to do the best they can to help you make money and survive. And that, again, comes back to the communication thing.
Guys, such good questions. Okay, I had a question, which is, wait, there was something important here. Marketing and advertising. And this is something that someone has asked a question about as well. So two things. I think firstly, a whole bunch of people are suddenly scrambling to learn new skills that haven't been as necessary in their world before, and they're trying to figure out, if I start moving more of my activities online, how do I actually market those things? And on the other hand, some people are saying, is this an opportunity for me to be doing viral marketing around coronavirus?
I see what you did there. It took me a second, but I see what you did there.
I'm so funny. What can I say?
So in our little doc that we had before this, Sam posed this question, and my only in bold caps answer was, Nando's is the only company that can use Corona in their marketing.
Don't touch that shit.
Don't touch Corona. Act as if it's a virus in your marketing and don't touch it. I mean, obviously that's a blanket statement, but be careful with this because it will backfire so quickly. However, this is a good time, like we've just spoken about reframing. Selling online is very possible. And if you haven't been exploring that as an option, you should. There are email outreach, cold email outreach businesses. I think one of the people that is on this call does that. It's called Firing Squad. Go Google them. They will do outreach for you. Those businesses are going to thrive in the next 6 to 12 months. I like to call it the 3 Fs, friends, family, and fools. Tell them about what you're doing. Tell the people closest to you. Use your social networks. Go and just be open about it. There was a great movie called Glengarry Glen Ross, and in it, Alec Baldwin says, ABC, always be closing. This is the world we live in now. You need to go and talk to people on your social media about what you're doing, how you've shifted, how you've changed. That is a form of marketing. And everyone now is looking for a way to do something new and interesting. So they might grapple onto it and then share it with their network. So you need to get into digital selling immediately.
So, Nick, I know that this is something that you've been doing for a long time. Do you have some concrete ideas for tools for people who've never sold products online? How do you do that? Like, I know you're a big fan of Parcel Ninja, for example. What is a good stack for people who suddenly need to start selling products in the online space?
Great question. And I think this is something that people get really overwhelmed with. And it's what a lot of people have resisted getting into e-commerce because it's very complicated. But the truth is it's not. Shopify is really simple to use. You can get one of their basic stores and basic themes for 350 Rand a month. Don't faff with redoing the theme. Don't faff with anything pretty. Just go onto Shopify, sign up, and then link it to your PayFast account. PayFast is a local payment provider. You can be up and running with an e-commerce store in literally hours. There really are very few excuses other than a lack of willingness to learn nowadays to do this. And then if you are a company that does physical products and you need to ship it and you're not set up for that, contact Parcel Ninja. Parcel Ninja will manage all your picking, packing, shipping. You just send them your products. They warehouse them for you. They integrate it into Shopify. And those 3 tools, Shopify, PayFast, and Parcel Ninja, and you've sorted your e-commerce for physical products. Then even easier, if you're a service-based business or you aren't selling a physical product, it's a digital product, you're a designer, you can use Shopify and PayFast or PayPal or Stripe to set up an e-commerce store and start selling your stuff immediately. A little example of that as a writer, I've just finished an ebook that I'm going to be putting out and selling online. I wrote it in Google Docs. I saved it as a PDF. I'm getting a friend to design me a Photoshop cover, and I'm going to put it on my own personal website that you can then buy and download. I'm not a designer, I'm a writer, and I found a way to make a product and sell it online that's evergreen. So that's kind of the perspective you need to have on how to make money in this new economy.
Sam Hill pointed out that Google and Facebook are also launching advertising discounts. Adobe's offering free software access to their products for 60 days. Creatives can then offer that to clients. I think that's it's a great tip.
Definitely. And start hunting for those sorts of coupons and gifts. Like, this is the new world that we live in. We've got to make use of every little inch we can. Sam, there's a question. Doing sales virtually is a lot tougher than in person. Any advice? So my advice is really simple. I don't think it's tougher. I've had a friend of mine who ran an a physical company that sold a product, and his sales to US were exclusively on Skype for years. We're talking about a decade now. And he at one point flew to America to meet these customers in person. And he'd arrive at their offices and they'd go, "Why are you here? We're paying you. We like you. Skype is fine." So I think that it's us that needs to get used to selling in digital worlds. I think now my default is I'm not going to phone you on a cell phone. I will do a video call with you. I want you to look at my face. Let's have this conversation. So I think over time, you'll get used to it and you'll start to learn how these tools work. Email outreach really does work if you've got the right target audience and the right product. If your online sales aren't working, this is a universal truth. You probably aren't selling them in the right way. It's not that online is difficult. It's the way you're selling or the product to the audience that you're selling. So there's lots of experimentation that needs to happen.
In a funny way, I think it's too early to be finding the silver lining necessarily in these things. It's a catastrophe. But I do think that everyone is learning some amazing skills around remote work, around video conferencing. Like before, trying to explain Zoom to some business partners was like, or prospective customers was, just not an option. And now suddenly everyone is learning these things. And I think that that's going to last for a while, which is good. All of those things are good. Yeah.
I think it's ushering in a completely new standard, a new normal.
Oh, and I did want to say as well, if anyone needs tips or is entirely new to the space of online marketing, the Red and Yellow has a free textbook called e-marketing. So if you just Google Red and Yellow e-marketing, it's this long PDF book. It's fantastic. It's really comprehensive if you've never done it before. So that's
cool.
That's a tip.
I'm going to pick on a question here from Rui. Bank card machines versus mobile payments. Considering the long-term view of the current situation, is it not prudent to cancel bank card machines? I'm biased when I say this because I'm a Yoko fan and shareholder, but if you have a bank card machine from a traditional bank, what are you thinking? So much cheaper, faster, easier, better customer service from companies like Yoko and Zappa and SnapScan. SnapScan obviously is a little bit of in both worlds, being owned by Standard Bank, but all of those are great options. So much so that my barbershop, I actually asked them to send me an image of their SnapScan so that I can pay them virtually without visiting. That's the value of these mobile payment systems. So I would definitely say go for Yoko and get on that.
Also that you do not have to touch PIN code pads.
Yeah. Firstly, tap, and secondly, mobile scanning. Yeah, I don't want to touch anything anymore. Like, people's hands are gross, man.
Damn straight.
Okay, done answering that one.
Okay, I'm seeing a question saying, I'm in the fashion industry and have a men's fashion brand called Yarn, I think, which is a very cool name. I'm about to go online, but will people really be purchasing fashion at a time like this?
The true hard answer here is luxuries are going to take a knock. I'm quite happy that I sold my luxury fashion brand about 12 months ago, because the truth is, if you want to try and buy a 200 Rand pair of socks or toilet paper, I can bet you're going to choose the toilet paper. So at least in the short term, the next 3 months, I would say try and shift what you make to a product that might be a bit more functional than luxury. I mean, even from what I've read, massive retail manufacturers like Balenciaga and LVMH are all producing face masks to help the medical community with their factories. So even the big brands are realizing that there is going to be a massive knock when it comes to luxury goods. And look, that applies to foods too. If you go, my favorite experience in the last 2 weeks has been going into Pick and Pay and seeing all the gluten-free pasta just hanging out on the walls. Are you telling me that your gluten allergies just disappeared because we're in a crisis? So this is a good time to reassess your product range. If people aren't buying it off the shelves in this climate, it's probably something that's going to suffer in the short term. And when I say short term, I'm talking about 6 months.
Yeah, it is hard to predict though. It's been interesting, in the UK, which is slightly ahead, I think, seeing what things have started selling out on Amazon, and anything that people need to make their home space a little bit nicer, those things are also becoming scarce suddenly. So, we were in the market for a new TV because we've just moved, and as we were choosing TVs, they were just evaporating. They just weren't available anymore. So I do think people are investing in some luxuries. People are anxious and therefore, want to treat ourselves, but to things that will keep us happy in our home lives. Again, I think it's a slightly unknowable thing but you can predict that there will likely be some business impacts on some things. Have options, know what your options are, have backup plans.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see we just completely keep going around the same thing, right? Know your business, prepare for the options available to you, rethink and restructure what you can do, and then look for opportunity while protecting your existing base. And just keep repeating that like it's a mantra. This isn't rocket science. We're not dealing with, I mean, I've personally never been through anything like this, but I was around in the 2008 crash and I had businesses then. And some of the biggest businesses in the world emerged out of there. And that year, I mean, WhatsApp, Airbnb, Uber were all born in 2008, 2009. Mm-hmm. So there is the ability to just hunker down and prepare and then plan for some kind of action, which kind of takes me to another question here, Sam, from Alex. What are some of the best ways to communicate or portray a sense of calm to you or to your clients? I don't know if you've got any ideas on that.
Okay, so I think the first thing is to be honest. I mean, I think that this is just general good life advice. But I think this is particularly a time when being disingenuous is not going to help you. And I think in terms of who you need to communicate with, it's also your shareholders, it's your staff, it's everyone. And I think pretending that everything's fine if you're in a company that it has been really affected by this is not helpful. So I think the first thing is to be honest, but be clear about what you are doing. And I think it's always about understanding your zone of control. Like there's a whole bunch of things happening in the world that are not in your control, and are not even knowable, but there are some things that are in your control. And those are the things we've been talking about. It's building your buffer, so that you're sitting on as much cash as you can right now, reducing your expenses, creating different product lines, experimenting with new things, focusing on the things that are doing well, cutting things that are not. All of those things are things that are in your control and are increasing your resilience in a time of crisis. So I think if you can be honest with people, here's the situation we're facing, here are the things that we are doing. I think that's it really. That's all any of us can do. I don't know if you have any other tips on top of that, Nick.
No, this is kind of something that I'm hoping a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners take into their lives generally right now. And my partner and I were discussing it on a walk yesterday. It's amazing how people have become more upfront in this current climate. Should we shake hands? No, there's no awkward oddness about it. So let's adopt that just generally. In my businesses, I practice always something called radical candor. And it is to challenge directly, but care personally about the outcome and the person. Treat your customers the same way. Give them radical candor. Hey guys, we're facing a really tough time. If this, and this happens, we will make it out. So let's all band together and try. So again, it comes back to being open and transparent and having good communication. Don't hide. Everyone is scared and panicked. So just communicate as freely and honestly as you can. I got to say though, I don't want to get people to the position where they're begging. You've got to phrase this in the right way. You can't beg people to help you because they're also fearful. And when you start begging, I'm really sorry, but I need to look after myself. So think of engaging in creative ways to rally your community around you.
I want to add one thing as well, which is it's kind of on that note of community. It's have compassion. I think, I think one of the funny things that's been happening is, at the moment, there's so much uncertainty that there's a large range of reasonable responses. It's reasonable in some context for some people, so some of your staff might have situations that you don't even know about. Some staff might have very vulnerable family members at home. Some staff might have anxieties around debt that you don't know about. Things that make them behave in a way that might to you seem quite extreme. And on the other end, some people, I think we've all seen, are treating this as though it's not still a big deal. And that might seem impossible for you to understand, but in their context, that might also just be the way that they are dealing and coping with their situation. So I've been kind of bringing myself back to this thing of not judging other people for their responses, understanding that there is a range of reasonableness right now because none of us have ever been through this before. And I think just always having compassion for the people that you're talking to, whether they're your shareholders or your staff or your customers, that you don't know what they're going through right now. But assume that everyone is anxious.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question here from, I'm going to say Louis. So Louis, any personal habits you can share with us that helps you stay calm, clear-minded, and not feel overwhelmed? I'm going to start, Sam. I'm sure you've got your own. I've self-isolated now for nearly 2 weeks, only going out to shop for food. I exercise every day for at least 30 minutes. I try and meditate every day for at least 20 minutes. And then I walk my dogs every day, twice a day. Those things help. And this is a really hard one, but the main one that I'm doing is I've stopped reading Corona news every single second of every single day. We know it's there. We know it's a problem. We know it's real. Try not to make it the obsession. Try not to talk to everyone on the phone about it. Try to deal with it in the first 30 seconds and move on to normalcy. We need to get to a place where we all acknowledge this is the problem. We know it's there. Let's just move on, because the anxiety just keeps getting topped up. So that's what I'm doing. How about you, Sam? Oh, Sam, we've lost. Oh, cats. Sam, you've muted yourself. I will unmute you. Oh, Sam, why are you muted? What has happened? It's on your mic. No. No, Sam. Oh, what's happened? Okay, wait. I'm gonna remove you and then bring you back. Where is Sam? There. Oh, wait. Sorry, guys. We did warn you. Sam, I'm waiting for you to come back. Oh, doesn't seem like there you go.
There we go. Sorry.
There we go. That's okay.
I done goofed, guys.
You were showing us your cats.
I was. That's basically how. Yeah, I think very similar. I allow myself 1 hour every day to read Corona-related news articles, and that is it. I'm day 16 now as well of pretty intense isolation. We both were sick 2 weeks ago, so we've been deep lockdown. I have been journaling. This is my journal. I've been making poetry. I have been exercising. That's been really good. I think the big thing is structure. I think especially now that all of your routines have been disrupted, building new routines that are kind of got handrails for your day has been really helpful for me. So that's meant scheduling one-on-ones with my team members, because, I think just in terms of work habits as well, we used to have a lot of very, informal ad hoc chats that were really important glue holding the business together. So we've sort of replaced those with more frequent one-on-one check-ins over Zoom. That's been really helpful. And
you guys do daily stand-ups too?
We don't anymore, actually. We used to. We found that the cadence was a little bit too high touch for our team, but now we kind of have. So I check in with every individual person that is my direct report, sort of twice a week at the moment. And that's been really good. But also just in my personal life, trying to make sure that I get up in the morning. I don't lie in bed obsessively screaming, reading news. I get to my desk. I've built little rituals around making a cup of coffee, sitting at my desk. I go for breaks at specific times in the day. I get out the house. I've been cycling by myself. It's been really nice. So yeah, find routines. And structure. Control what you can control, I think, is the thing.
Cool. Another question here from Becky, which I like, and it's worth addressing just generally. Do you think this will impact the way businesses change long term, even if it's modestly? So I want to start by saying that we're still early in 2020, and a lot of businesses had only just finished their strategies for the year, probably the week or two before the president announced that we were in a state of disaster. So it's important that you throw those plans out the window now. That strategy you had written for 2020 no longer applies. We live in a fundamentally different world. Things have changed. So your strategy needs to change. And that means that long term, I think that businesses will have more options available to them. and short term, you'll have less options available to you. And that's absolutely fine. So I prefer the idea of minimizing the amount of things you spend your energy on in the short term, and in the long term, see where those things trickle. So I fundamentally do think that we have opened Pandora's box into this really curious and interesting new world. But the other thing that I think people aren't really keeping in mind now is things change slower than you think they will. So I fully understand that we are in a hard break and the world is different today. But when this all carries on and in 12 months from now, it's moved and we're all over this, we're still going to shake hands. I almost guarantee you we will revert back to shaking hands because humans are slow to change. So that applies to businesses too. Just because today you need to shift your coffee store to an online version where you deliver coffee to people's doors and don't touch it, great. In 6 months, when we are not in a state of disaster and off lockdown, coffee shops will reopen. Those aren't going away. Restaurants aren't going away. So don't dramatically change your business too much so that you don't know what it looks like when this is all over.
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that suggestion and that thought. I think the reality is none of us know how long the world is going to be disrupted. I think it seems unlikely that it will be shorter than 3 months at the very most optimistic, and it seems quite likely it might go on for 1 or 2 years. And I think that again, coming back to knowing what your numbers are, I think what we found helpful in our business as well is to set explicit lines before they happen. So we've agreed that once our business gets down to X many months of runway, that at that point we will activate backup plan, whatever. And we've done that for, a few different rounds of conversation. Our business—
And that was pre-corona, right?
Exactly.
This is just general business stuff. Yeah.
I mean, our business was in the middle of a fundraising round, which obviously has been dramatically impacted by all of this.
Yeah.
And what we found really helpful is to have agreed beforehand so that you're not always acting in panic. So when you have your, the idea of system 1 and system 2 thinking, sometimes the thinking fast and slow, to try and when in the times when you do have calm brain and strategic brain, to make plans so that when the things happen, you're not reacting. I think that that's a good way to think about the next couple of months in terms of business strategy as well. You'll try, work out in your head, you'll try this until you get a clear signal it's not going to work, or it's not going to work fast enough. And then know what your next plan is. But, you also can't predict the future. You need to be reactive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the top question right now, and I'm going to answer it relatively quickly. Government needs to grant a moratorium on VAT and PAYE payments, possibly for 60 days. My comments are that will never happen in 1 trillion years. So don't think about it. Don't plan for that. I don't know about you, Sam. I
don't know if I entirely agree. I've definitely seen other countries talk about it. I think, again, it's one of those things that's out of your control. I do think it's important, though, that we put pressure on government. There's a number of things that the government could be doing right now that would be helpful. I think the interest rates have just been cut, so that's been really helpful. Some relief. I do think deferring VAT payments and stuff like that would make a huge difference for people. It is the kind of thing that could be mandated. I do think it's important in all of this to be a part of big community responses as well, as much as you can. But it's also not in either of our control or your control to make that happen.
And that's a key thing, right? Is don't plan. Yeah, you can't rely on it. So that's kind of my thinking with anything government related versus private sector is the government might do that, but in May or June or July or August. And by then you might have run out of runway and you're dead anyways as a business. So you can't plan for those sorts of breaks. I do think Rich's comment on asking if you can pay SARS a little bit later or defer, that's a good way to show that you're committed, but not that you're going to renege.
Just a general point about debts as well right now. I've seen competing pieces of advice going around the community. One half of people saying, if you do have a line of credit available to you, now is the time to essentially max it out, pull it all out before the credit, the debt options all close up. and other people saying like debt makes you very vulnerable. And that's a really bad idea. I think it very much depends on what type of debt it is. But I think as a general principle, I find that kind of advice quite scary. I think you've always got to be very cautious of throwing lighter fuel on a situation. The thing is that debt, especially high interest debt, always increases your risk. And I think being in a panicked situation where you take more debt because it will see you through an extra 3 months, but ultimately, if your business is not going to survive, you rather want to shut it early rather than late, and you want to do it while you still have assets. You haven't thrown a bunch more debt at the problem.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And right now, there's going to be personal surety on those debts that you take and that credits. There's no chance you're going to get it for free.
Exactly. But something like if you owe SARS money, that's at mandated interest rates that are fairly low. That's a great payment to defer, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, my view on this is it's a gamble that you don't know when it's going to be cashed in.
Yeah.
So you think, okay, I'm going to take 100,000 Rand out of my credit card or my bond. I'm going to plow it into my business to keep it afloat for 3 months. Okay, what if we're in lockdown for 6?
Yeah.
Then you've got to pay this bond or this debt back that you can't afford to pay, and then you lose your house. So this can ratchet up really quickly if you aren't very cautious and very smart about the risks you're taking. And as entrepreneurs, we by default are high risk individuals. I am a very high risk individual, but right now I'm hoarding, I'm saving, I'm not spending, I'm battening down the hatches because we just don't know how long this is going to last. So rather try and box clever than draw out as much debt as you can. Having been on both sides of this, taken out loans, drawn out debt, raised funding, the best position to be in is debt-free. The best kind of funding you can raise is sales. So rather than look for those solutions, try and first spend time thinking about how you can make more money, then find more money.
And a lot of this is about being honest with yourself about how viable your business is in the current situation. Yeah. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. It's 9 minutes.
Your call, Sam. What can you see any that jump out at you?
Gonna see. I think we've kind of answered that one. I'm not going to try and answer what do you think the president is going to say this evening.
Me neither.
I'm not a witch, contrary to what some of my exes will tell you. Okay, any advice perhaps for a hair salon? We're looking at online tutorials and training for the industry as there seems to be a lot of interest in upskilling while people are at home.
Cracking idea.
Wonderful.
Yeah, great idea. That's exactly what I think Rich precipitated the thinking around, just reframing what you do. Here are the skills that you have. How can we use them online? And the other thing that I think is interesting about that comment is don't just do that short term. If you're going to invest in this sort of content, make training and tutorials a veritable business model for you. Like set up a YouTube channel, figure out how to get paid for it, put it on an e-commerce site, and actually engage with this as a real part of your business. And I think that's quite a key thing, right? Is you can't set up these temporary stays because we don't know how long it's going to be. Think about how you can embed this new future into your core business practice.
I mean, stuff like that as well, even if that becomes a fantastic marketing avenue for in future when you do reopen your hair salon, like I think this is a great point to leave on, I think, which is that we're all learning so much right now. And while it's terrifying and anxiety inducing, it's still learning, and that's great, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think if any of you know me at all, you know that I'm quite fond of the idea of failure. And I think failure is something that we need to get over. We need to look at it as a through point, not an end point. So this whole experience for us is not something that's going to end anything. It's going to get you through to the next phase of whatever's coming. And I wish Rich hadn't actually left, because his business is going through this incredible transformation. They're cutting out anything that never worked, that they were a little bit like on the fence about, now it's time, cut everything that you can cut and have this new world that you open up into.
I think that summary of, or I can't remember if you said this, or it was something else I read, which is make the tough choices today so that you don't have to make the very tough choices tomorrow, right?
I wish I'd said that, but no, that's great advice. And usually what I do say is the hard choices are usually the right ones. If it's an easy choice, it's probably the wrong one. It's just too simple. No, let's keep all of our staff. No, that's the wrong choice. It's the easy choice. Cut who you need to cut. So Sam, my parting words here are, you're not alone. This is the key thing. It's very easy to be isolated and feel isolated, but you're not. We are all connected. 110 of us have been on a call for 50 minutes discussing the pains we're all feeling. So reach out to the people in your network, talk to them. I've randomly been going through my WhatsApp list of chats and messaging people I haven't spoken to in a couple of months and seeing how they are. I've had phone calls from some close friends that I haven't spoken to in 6 months going, hey, is everything okay? Is your business going to make it? Do those things, because you never know where opportunity is going to open up. Just don't feel alone. We're not alone. The whole world, for the first time in basically history, has a single enemy that it's fighting. This is quite an experience for all of us to be part of.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything on top of that because that was so inspiring and lovely. The only thing I want to say on the topic of community is just a last plug for if you guys have $10, $50 lying around that you're not doing anything with, the people who are at the front lines right now. I have a lot of friends who are doctors and public health specialists, and already even in South Africa, they are tired. They are working so hard and they are exposing themselves on the front line. So if we can support them in any way, please do. Please support each other. You're not alone. Thank you.
This has been recorded and we will upload it to my YouTube channel. I don't know if Sam will do the same, and we'll share it. All of you are going to be joined to both of our newsletter databases, so you can unsubscribe if you don't want to continue on there. And we will do more of these, I promise.
And shameless plug, I'm doing another one of these on Thursday, specifically for your personal finances. If you want to, it's also free, raising money. So if you are keen, sign up for my email newsletter for the link.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for the idea and the time. This was such a pleasure.
Thanks, guys. That was super fun.